are flying on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Horse racing is back once again. We're going to look back on everything because we had a fantastic week. We've had like 5 straight podcasts with winners involved. That's including NFL. I think we're like 8 from the last 9 as well. So we are on fire here on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. And you might notice that myself, Luke Elder's wearing blue. Tom Collins is wearing blue. We're just in a sovereignty sort of mood, Tom.
Oh, we are. We're in a Godolphin, a sovereignty sort of mood. What a Saturday. What a week, actually. The Friday as well for our Oaks preview podcast. It was great racing, wasn't it, down at Churchill for a start? Despite the fact the weather kind of had its role, it wasn't that bad that the results were all over the gaff. There were quite a few predictable results, whether they were short prices or actually longer prices. And the 2 big races, the Oaks, which we'll move on to in due course, but the Derby, Luke, we've been talking about this race for months and months and months. We've been talking about sovereignty constantly throughout. There were a lot of doubters out there, especially in the US, actually. The horse proved them wrong. What a performance.
Absolutely. He went off like 9-1, 10-1 in the US. I don't know what the American side of things were doing. I think over here we're about 6-1. Again, he drifted on the day. Luxor Cafe, I think, ended up going off shorter than Sovereignty, which, again, was absolutely crazy. But before we get into the Kentucky Derby chat, just want to say a big thank you to all our new subscribers. Welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Welcome back, I should say, after finding us last week. We had like 66 new subscribers, so we thank you all for coming over and joining us. Hopefully, we can find you another winner this week. We are on the road to 1,000, though. We are ever closer, though. We're just over 300 away from 1,000 subscribers. But a big week last week. We're going to continue that, Tom. But let's talk about Sovereignty. Sovereignty is my favourite horse in training, full stop, right now. He was so good in the Kentucky Derby. And just to add on to it, yes, we tipped him on the day as well, but he was 25-1 when first mentioned on the podcast back in January.
Yeah, exactly. 33-1 on my Patreon as well. Like, we were snapping up the big prices. No one can say we didn't tell you early, because we definitely did. Look, results are not always going to go to plan. We could mention horses way out that don't win. But in this instance, because we got it right, we have the right to gloat, I think. Look, everything went perfectly, didn't it? I mean, he broke well. Okay, he stumbled after 4 strides, which wasn't ideal. Jareth Lubbery coming across, and Sovereignty kind of just had to take back full step, and that put him a little bit on the back foot. But he ended up in the position that we wanted him to be in, just 3 or 4 behind, lots of space around him. They went hard up top, thanks to several front runners, and he just got a dream run through. I love that he was tracking journalism into the straight as well. That was an A1 ride from Junior Alvarado. His interviews were great. And I love the battle. You know what was great about this race? Not only did we put up the winner, not only was it a long-term selection, but there were no horses in the field that didn't produce their A game. All the big guns showed up. They all ran as people had hoped. Journalism ran big. Baeza ran huge. Final Gambit turned up on the dirt. Maybe Burnham Square wasn't able to show his best, but he still ran well. Yet Sovereignty still beat them. So there were no excuses there, and the best horse definitely won.
Absolutely. There was never a moment in the race, other than the stumble, which, to be honest, I missed live anyway, so I was comfortable throughout. There was never a moment in the race where I thought, I don't like where we are here. I texted you going into the first bend going, perfect sit, because he was in the absolute perfect position. And also, Junior Alvarado, that the Kentucky Derby is a hard race to produce a good ride in. And to be honest, Umberto Rispoli was very good on journalism as well. But the second, Tom, that Sovereignty latched onto the coattails of journalism as they turned for home, it's game over. You're not going to finish stronger than Sovereignty.
No, he's the best stayer in the race. He has the highest top-end speed. As we were talking about in the preview, he just needs to build up to it. The pace needs to collapse a little bit, and he was going to be the strongest late in the day, and that proved to be the case. To be fair, I thought journalism ran very well, justified his price at the top of the market. Technically, he was the horse to beat, albeit we have been saying that Sovereignty has equal, if not better chances, yet he was a much bigger price, and that proved to be the case. But there was no knock on journalism. I thought he ran great. And the same for Baeza, who we weren't actually keen on. But I thought that was a clear career best from him. It was just a really good race. Plenty of horses I want to take out of it moving forward for certain different reasons. Burnham Square being one, because I don't think he got the best of trips. And also horses that I probably wouldn't want moving forward that actually ran pretty well. Like Owen Almighty, for example. I thought he ran great to finish 5th. Way better than probably anyone would have anticipated, especially from that gate. I don't know about him moving forward. I'm going to be a little bit tentative with him. I think he's probably going to take some money in some good races, and I'm going to look to oppose. In a race like that, a derby, where horses are 100% going into it, they give everything in the race, especially speed horses, it can have longer term consequences. look, for connections, I hope he does go on and improve and get better. But he is one instance in that race that I'm going to be taking on the negative side moving forwards. There are loads on the positive side.
Yeah, 100%. With Owen Almighty, I think there are specific places that will help him out more than others. The likes of a Keeneland, the likes of Saratoga, where you can have a sort of speed favouring track and a speed favouring setup. That will help him out. Honestly, before we move on to the Oaks and onto the Peter Pan this week that we're covering, who's going to go for the Preakness? Because Sovereignty, Bill Mott's come out and said, yeah, I'm not really sure. It's not really his sort of race. We might give it a go. Don't know. Baez is not going to go. I don't think Journalism's going to go. So I don't really know who's going to turn up for the Preakness.
Well, it's actually confirmed 8 minutes before we started recording this, 7 p.m. on Tuesday evening, that Sovereignty is definitely not going. I just saw that on Twitter literally before we started recording. So he is definitely out of the Preakness, which I think is the right move personally. Obviously, we always want to see horses go for the Triple Crown, but the Preakness is the one race that probably doesn't set up perfectly for him. A bit like Gulfstream, completely different track, Pimlico to Gulfstream, but the shape of the race won't be right. Journalism may go. I don't think Connections will necessarily want to actively bypass it. If the horse hasn't come out of the race well, then they will, but it will kind of be the right winning spot for him to win a leg of the Triple Crown. I know that Rodriguez is going to go. Obviously, he was a last-minute scratch. Mm-hmm. Bob Baffert has confirmed that he's going to the Preakness. So I don't know who's actually going to make up the whole field, but there are a couple of names at least that are in the melting pot. Sovereignty is not one of them. And one last thing on Sovereignty, you probably can't see this. You can probably just see a reflection of my notes. But this is a fantastic image from Alex Evers, US photographer. I put it on my Twitter as well. Probably one of the best images, but this will remind me of the big race, Luke.
Literally about 25 minutes after they crossed the line, Alex had put that on social media, and Tom had already got it as the background on his laptop.
Yeah,
it was a very quick transformation for Tom's laptop, but that's Sovereignty. And I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are thinking, wow, you two spot on, nailed it from a long way out. How can I ever repay you? How can we possibly make this worth your while? We don't want money or anything. Just share the video down below. Share this video, comment, tell your friends, subscribe, do the whole shebang. That's the only way that we ask to be repaid on that. But if you comment, leave a comment with what price you got Sovereignty on as well, because I'm assuming that you did get on Sovereignty, because we've been going on about it and boring you for months and months and months. But thankfully that part's over now. Regards to the Oaks, Tom, Good Cheer was very good. The wet track came. A few horses didn't turn up, and my selection, Take Charge Milady, ran awfully. Annoyingly, just after we recorded the podcast, Kenny McPeak came out and said, yep, she's got a foot abscess and she's in doubt for the race. She did run, but she didn't run very well. But Good Cheer started off what was an absolutely brilliant 3 days for Team Godolphin.
Yeah, they couldn't put a foot wrong, really. She was just the best in the race. She was the best going in. Okay, she was a short enough price, but she was still very fair. As I said in the podcast, I thought she should have been around 4 to 5. She ended up being 6 to 4 over here. I can't remember our US price. But she proved that she was way the best. I love the ride as well. I thought both the winning rides in the Derby and the Oaks were very good. Obviously, that sounds something that anyone would say, but you don't necessarily win races because of good rides. The horse can get you out of trouble. But both instances, I thought Junior Alvarado, obviously on Sovereignty, was phenomenal. Louis Sires on Good Cheer was as good. Keeping that wide trip, not stopping her momentum, launching her in the straight, and it was game over. Obviously, we can keep this review a little bit shorter because we don't have too much to holler about, aside from a short price winner. But Good Cheer moving forward is way the horse to beat in that division. She's 7 from 7 now. And you know what? Going towards the distaff at the end of the year, right now, I have her on top. I have her better than Torpedo Anna.
I agree. I mean, Torpedo Anna's coming off the back of a defeat now, where it was said after the race that she might not be 100% and there might be a slight issue. We're still looking forward with Torpedo Anna, but she was obviously beaten by Raging Sea, but didn't seem herself whatsoever. But that's a look back on Churchill Downs last week. Well done if you found either of the winners alongside us. But as I say, we're 5 straight podcasts, including NFL, with a winner now. I think, Tommy, was saying earlier on in the week, 8 from the last 9 podcasts with a winner, and that includes forecasts as well.
Yeah, actually, I think we're 8 out of the last... 7 out of the last 7 in terms of horse racing as well. So, as Luke said, I know it sounds like we're begging for sharing or whatever, but please do subscribe down below so you don't miss out on the podcast. We are hopefully providing you winners. As we've said many times before, you can listen to all the analysis. You can skip to the end for the picks if you want. But these podcasts, hopefully you don't want to miss them. And we're in great form at the moment.
Yeah, we are really good. really good. Not just handsome faces, guys. Like, let's move on to the Grade 2 Peter Pan over it. I'm not going to call it Belmont the Big A. It is, but it's Aqueduct. We'll call it Aqueduct. But the Peter Pan is an interesting contest. The running order, Tom, says Grade 2.
It's Grade 3, isn't it?
Yeah, Grade 3. First mistake. Right. The market isn't yet out. The morning line, if it is out, I haven't seen it and it's not in front of me. But we are recording this a little bit earlier on in the week than what we normally would. I would expect Hill Road and Vassimo to be towards the head of the market. But we'll start off with pace, because there are one or two angles for horses going forward in this spot. Hill Road and Vassimo, they are not involved in the pace.
No, well, Hillroad definitely not. Vassimo, I wouldn't be surprised if actually pushed forward. He won't be right on the front, but he's drawn gate 1, so I don't think he'll want to be too far back. And at the start of his career, he was aggressively ridden on his first 2 outings, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was up towards the front. But this is a nice big field, isn't it? We did debate doing the Man of War like we did last year, but there are only 5 runners, and it's actually the second race on the card, so that was an instant no. Go for the Peter Pan instead. Competitive race. Hopefully we can get a nice price or 2 with our selections. When it comes to the pace, as you say, there are a couple of horses that do want to go forward, probably not the market leaders, aside from Captain Cook, who I do think will be part of the top of the market, maybe even favourite, depending on how the New York public bet. He's got tactical speed and will probably push up. I do think First Pitch will go forward as well, comes off the back of a maiden victory where he made every yard. And as I say, Vassimo won't be too far away. They're the 3 most obvious ones to me, but look, this isn't a race where we're going to be seeing electric fractions early. It's not like the Derby last week.
No, not at all. And this is going to be a strong staying race, I feel, as well. There's plenty of horses in here that maybe aren't blessed with the most natural speed, but they are blessed with an abundance of stamina. Honestly, in a race like this, it wouldn't shock you if there were 1 or 2 horses in here that did go on and run in the Belmont in a few weeks' time. It's further down the line. It's a big step up, yes, but these are the sort of horses that we are dealing with. Captain Cook and McAfee, they're the 2 that we'll start with. Look, McAfee for Rick Dutrow comes from the Wood Memorial, finished 5th behind Rodriguez, Grande, and Passion Rules. Obviously, Captain Cook as well was in there, 1 place ahead in 4th. I know that they've got inflated speed figures coming out of that contest. And look, they ran well in a race that will probably work out quite nicely in the future. Obviously, Rodriguez and Grande both scratched from the Derby, so we don't know immediately how strong that form was. But they ran okay. Maybe they found their limit.
Yeah, the reason why these are the first 2 horses we'll talk about is because that Wood Memorial form line is always going to be kind of looked at and scrutinised ahead of races like this. The Wood being the primary Kentucky Derby prep race up in New York, so quite a few of those horses come out and drop down in grade like they are here with Captain Cook and McAfee. They've got differing running styles. Captain Cook wants to be on the speed, as we've already said. McAfee's a deep closer. I think Captain Cook's going to take the majority of the money out of these 2 Dutrow horses, but I actually prefer McAfee of the pair. He ran really well in the Wood. I thought he got stopped at a key moment, and then he stayed on again in the latter part under very tender handling. If you go back 2 runs with McAfee, he was ridden by Lane Lutzi, and the ride was pants. It really was awful. Prior to that, he looked like a promising horse. So out of these 2, I would actually take McAfee. Captain Cook's solid. The only way I see him winning is if he gets left alone up top, which could happen, but that's not strong enough for me to make a big case about him, given he's likely to be a relatively short price, probably 3-1, 5-2 in a race like this, I think, with Captain Cook. But the reason I wanted to talk about this was not only the Wood Memorial form, but the fact that I actually think McAfee is the better of the 2 Dutrows.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't like the way that Captain Cook went through the race last time around. Look, Manny Franco's taking the ride. He was sort of up in the van-ish. He was sort of sat second, and then he faded quite tamely late on. You look at McAfee. He started his run way further back, and then he made a few inroads into the contest. I'd be with you with that. For all I don't think either of these will win the Peter Pan, I would have McAfee overturning that form with Captain Cook. I just don't like the way the latter stayed on in the final furlong or so. He just looked cooked, albeit, again, against decent horses. The horse that was meant to turn up in the Wood Memorial was Hill Road. He was ruled out. I think he had a temperature or something along those lines. It wasn't anything serious, but it meant that week that he couldn't run. And going hand in hand with that, Tom, it meant that he couldn't run in the Kentucky Derby because he wasn't qualified with enough points.
Yeah, exactly. This horse is A horse I think both of us like quite a bit in terms of generally, not necessarily this race, albeit that's to be seen. But generally, I think we both have the same opinion that he's got quite a lot of ability. He started his career in Ireland for Ammo Racing, but subsequently moved out to the US after just 2 turf runs. I thought his US debut was pretty strong, running a good third behind a couple of nice ones. And then last time in the Tampa Bay Derby, the way he finished out that race to me suggested that he's got a big one in him. I love the gallop out, and I actually love what the jockey did on the gallop out and kept the horse up in high gear just to see how much petrol was in the tank and to get him ready for what was the wood. Unfortunately, as you say, he couldn't run there. But this horse is still open to so much improvement. He is a maiden on dirt, but both of his runs in the Juvenile and the Tampa Bay Derby have been strong, placed efforts. And he's the horse to beat, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he opened up and went off favourite. I've got one concern with him. Have you seen the weather forecast this week? Sloppy track. It's a rain. As you see sometimes at Aqueduct, the weather in New York can be quite temperamental. He's never run on it before. He may handle it, he may not. But for a horse that started his career on turf, that is the only reason I'd be opposing. If it is a dry track, and we know the weather can change last minute, he would be my number one pick.
I wouldn't be dead against him on a wet track. It would be the concern because it is, as you say, the unknown. But he's bred to go on dirt. I mean, he was one of those horses that it's the weird one of, well, why are you over here? Or why are you in Europe? Because you are clearly a dirt horse and you're going to be that over in America. Well done to Ammo. They moved him over. And look, he's run 2 great races on dirt. I thought he was one of the biggest eye catchers, full stop, at the Breeders' Cup when running on for third in the Juvenile. That was a race, as we know, that was dominated from the front by Citizen Bull and Gaming. They just didn't stop. Nothing else really managed to get into the contest. And with that, we're talking about some good horses, the likes of Chancellor McPatrick, a few others as well that just didn't manage to get into the race whatsoever. Chad Brown did come out and say before the Tampa Bay Derby, he's nowhere near 100% fit. He was about 75% fit or so. It was the same for Chancellor McPatrick, who I know came out and disappointed last time around, albeit in a good race. However, I just feel this sort of contest is absolutely ideal for him. He's a big unit as well. I wouldn't have a massive concern, honestly, about the wet track, but it's the sort of guilty until proven innocent. We'll switch it around and put it that way on Hill Road. Flavion Pratt's taking the ride. He's obviously the first string of the Chad Brown team. They've got Lordship in here as well. I think Hill Road is going to take a fair bit of beating. However, with that, you're probably going to be looking at the race favourite in this spot. So Hill Road, massive contender for sure, as is Vassimo, who is a horse, Tom, that we spoke about on this podcast a few times. So obviously, he's had his issues. He was disqualified on his debut due to a banned substance. The last 3 starts, they've been okay. He just looks a bit slow.
Controversial opinion, yeah. I actually think this horse has a lot of upside, probably as much as Hill Road. He might not be as good as Hill Road, but he's still as unexposed, only had the 4 outings. That debut run, okay, there was a banned substance. I actually don't know the ins and outs of that, what the substance was, but he was disqualified. If you think it was performance enhancing, then you wouldn't take the form literally. But for the purposes of the podcast, I will. He beat a horse called Rapture, who was pretty useful. He ran in an allowance race, but it was a very good allowance race on the undercard on Saturday at Churchill. And he ran okay. And prior to that, he'd won a maiden and ran all right in another race as well, finishing 3rd. So I think to beat a horse like Rapture, Vassimo must be quite talented. They then went to Tampa. It was an egg and spoon race, really, but he got the job done well. And I love the way he finished that race. Very strong at the wire. Now, his 2 subsequent runs, I think he's shaped way better than the form figure suggests. He ran in the Risen Star. He was forwardly placed, gunned from the gates. And then it looked like he lost complete interest down the back. It wasn't that the horse was tired. He just went from about 3rd or 4th and plummeted back through the field going into the turn. And then after the turn, after losing so much ground in so many places, then he was switched out wide and he ran on again. It was a sign of a horse who was still very raw, inexperienced, but has plenty more to come when he learns how to race. Pletcher then fitted in with blinkers, which would suggest he also thought it was a focus problem in the Louisiana Derby. He didn't run great. I think that's fair to say. But maybe it was the distance that day stretching out even further. It was quite a hot race as well. This, to me, seems a weaker contest. Dropping back in trip from a good inside gate if he breaks, gets RLTs back on board again. I think there's upside to him.
Yeah, I get that. I just don't know how much upside. And the problem for me is he's going to be the same sort of horse I feel as Hill Road. I feel like Hill Road's just a better horse than Vassimo. For all the Vassimo, you're going to get a bit more value, I would say. I mean, what sort of price would you be expecting Vassimo to be? 5, 6 to 1?
Yeah, I think about well anything north of 9 to 2, 5 to 1, I'm more than happy with. If he's a little bit shorter than that, then maybe you're questioning whether there is value there. But I don't really see how the betting public over in the US, put him shorter than Captain Cook or Hill Road, maybe even one or two others. So I'd have him at around 5 to 1 on my line. That's the line that I want him to be at anyway.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Uncaged very quickly, because this is a horse in the Winstar Rapoli ownership, who on debut at Saratoga won nicely, then came out, ran at Gulfstream Park and ran less nicely behind Rolando. And then last time around, they stepped Uncaged up in trip, they put headgear on him, and seemingly it worked. It sounds like an odd thing to say, and it sounds very basic, but he just didn't have the wow factor for me. He went and got the job done. He did it. He boxed on past the others, but now you're taking on horses that could have run in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's very true. I actually tipped and backed him last time out. I think it was 9 to 2 or something, and it was a very, very fair price. It looked a good race on paper, that one, but I don't think it was. There were a couple of horses in there. Chad's was sent off favourite for Klarovich, I think it was, and he's a horse that needs distance, and it wasn't the right trip for him. A couple of others had some sort of, I can't remember what the negatives were, but they were quite obvious negatives, which is why I put this horse up. And to be fair, he did improve, but it was a step up in distance in the first time blinkers that elicited that improvement. He could go on, and he could be better here as well. Look, he's 2 from 2 on a muddy track, so I don't think you can write him off by any means. He is the one with the off-track form if that weather does come. But equally, surely Pletcher would want Irad Ortiz on board, no? I understand that Kendrick Carmouche has ridden this horse plenty before, but if this was Pletcher's number one, you're booking Ortiz.
Yeah, I agree. It looks to have been more of a choice by Irad to go with Vassimo over Uncaged, but we'll find more out of the weekend. I think they are the horses that we've mentioned, that they are the contenders in the race. I think there's a lot of dead weight in here as well. The likes of Surfside Moon, Happily Delusional. I think there's a lot of horses that you can just throw out almost immediately. First pitch included in that as well. Before we move on to selections, was there anything else you wanted to mention, or are we going on?
Just a really quick word on Lordship. As you've already said, he's the second string of the Chad Brown horses in here. He's 1 from 1, which is why I want to mention him. Obviously, an appealing profile, connections, and the form figure. However, that Tampa race he ran in on debut completely fell apart. They went 46-3 through the half, a weak race at Tampa, going a mile and 70 yards. The front runners were always going to come back. He was in the right spot and he capitalised. It's interesting that Chad's put in Lordship in this race because it's very unlike Chad Brown, putting a horse off a maiden win straight into a graded race. That's not what he does. He puts them into allowances and then goes up to graded races. So he obviously thinks he's talented, but from what we've seen so far, it's very hard to plump for Lordship in this spot as a wager, a bet anyway. But watch out for him in the future. I think he's probably got a high level of ability.
Yeah, it's a big step up from first to second start anyway. But interesting that he's been given a go, Lordship. From a selection standpoint, I'll take the lead with this one because I think we've kind of given away who I like. Hill Road is the one that I like. I'm expecting him to be favourite, honestly, but he should be favourite as well. I think he would have performed best in the Wood Memorial of the other two that ran in the contest if he were able to turn up. I'm not going to say he was going to go and win it because it was a very good renewal with Rodriguez and Grande. I think he's the strongest stayer in this contest as well, and probably the classiest stayer. We saw at the Breeders' Cup that he was able to overcome, we'll call it adversity in running, just because the race did not go to suit whatsoever. But he was the only one that made up ground. He should be fitter for last time around as well. I think this could be quite a nice horse for Ammo Racing to have over in America as well. If he were to run again at a Keeneland or a Saratoga further down the line, those tracks would suit him absolutely perfectly. I'm not overly worried if the rain does come, and it looks like it is going to come. We should be dealing with a sloppy surface once again, but I do like Hill Road in this, Tom. From my point of view, I'd be disappointed if he got beaten here.
I understand that completely. He is the horse to beat. And as I say, if it was a dry track, I would be very, very much in his camp. Super confident, in fact. But I'm unsure about the track for him, much more than you are, I think. He was one of the last ones on my shortlist for sure from a talent perspective, but I'm looking elsewhere. I also think Uncaged is worth noting if it's a wet track. And also, if McAfee is a big price, a double-figure price, put a saver on him, maybe each way, maybe to win. Or if you're in the US, put him into your exactas, your trifectas, because I do think he's going to be overlooked in the market. And I do think he has, well, at least place claims, maybe winning claims too. But my selection in what I think is a very tricky heat is going to be Vassimo. I like his unexposed profile. I like the cutback in trip. Second time blinkers, inside draw. Hopefully he can sit just in behind the leaders and kind of prove what Pletcher thought originally, that this horse has a lot of talent. I'm taking a bit of leap of faith that he is going to put it all together because his last few runs haven't been great. But I think there is talent there. And I'll go with Vassimo, considering you're going for probably the talented horse. I'll go for the unexposed improver in there.
Vassimo for Tom. Hill Road for myself. We have run a bit longer than normal, but we were celebrating and we're just outright partying at the start of the episode, especially with Sovereignty. But it won't be like that every week. We just normally take our winners and go with it. But this one we've been going on about for quite some time. Best of luck if you are following us in once again this week. Tom, question time. What are we doing next week?
That is a great question. I think it might be the Preakness, mate.
There we go. Normally, Tom can stagger around on it a little bit, but yeah, it's going to be one of the big ones. We will look forward to that next week. As I say, thank you to everyone who subscribed last week. Make sure if you aren't subscribed, you do that this week. You don't want to miss out on videos going forward. We've got NFL content on our channel as well with the NFL drafts fallout. Our winners and losers is live on the channel right now. But until next week, we will talk to you regards to the Preakness, where Sovereignty won't be turning up, but plenty others will. Until that point, stay safe, look after another. Goodbye.